great to be here, and I want to thank the folks we have with us today. Our Secretary of State, Laurel Lee, is with us. Our Senate President, Wilton Simpson, is with us. The author of the bill, Representative Danny Perez from Miami, is with us. Our soon-to-be Senator Blaise Ingoglia is with us. Our great Representative Ralph Mazzullo is with us. Representative Rick Roth and Senator Dennis Baxley is with us. So thank you all. So we, if you remember, and throughout Florida, we've had some rough goes with elections over the years. We weren't always viewed as the state that had its act together. When I became governor, I said this is going to be a problem. A lot of people weren't talking about it, by the way, then in 2019. One of the first things we did as governor was accept the resignation of Brenda Snipes as supervisor of elections in Florida. We were able to remove the supervisor of election in Palm Beach County, and obviously those two counties had a lot of problems over the years. Those have gotten much better. We also, when COVID hit, we did not change unconstitutionally changed procedures. We followed the law. We applied the law just like it was. And the result was on election night, you counted 99% of the votes by midnight on election night in Florida. Then you looked at these other states, and it took them days, weeks. Some of them, like New York and California, it takes them over a month just to count the votes from one election. And so that does not inspire confidence. I think people see, especially, you'll have one candidate winning on election night, and then 3 days later, the other candidate wins with all these votes that are done. And so that's not the way to do it. So you actually had, after the 2020 election, people were saying, gee, why can't everyone else be like Florida when it comes to this? They never used to say that. I know that for a fact. So it is what it is. At the same time, you compare us to some of these other states, we did a better job, but there's a lot that needs to be addressed. And so we weren't going to just sit there and say, oh yeah, we've got everything figured out, because there was more to do in the state of Florida to make sure that we have transparent, fair, and elections with integrity. So last year, we signed really landmark legislation that these folks were involved in passing. We'll talk about this on the sign today. But last year, we signed probably the strongest election integrity measures in the country. We did things like require voter ID when you request absentee ballots. We made sure that you can't just send unsolicited ballots out. California will send ballots to people that haven't lived there for like 5 years. You just get a ballot showing up in like Omaha, Nebraska for California. And so we're not doing that. We've had absentee ballots, you can request them, but you're not doing unsolicited ballots, and that's something very important. Last year, we also banned ballot harvesting in the state of Florida, and that's really, really important. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, we banned Zuckerbucks in the state of Florida. And if you think about I think it's terrible to have these Zuckerbucks. What they do is, Zuckerberg did over $400 million in 2020 election. They do it in these, quote, nonprofit groups. But what the groups would do, they wouldn't run commercials or do that. They'd go to these local election offices. They'd give them millions and millions of dollars, but then they'd bring their people in. They would do ballot harvesting. They would do mass mail ballots. And so it was effectively these private groups commandeering the actual machinery of the elections. We had never really seen anything like that. That is totally unacceptable. And that is not the way you have elections with integrity. And so we knew that we had to act very strongly against Zuckerbucks. It's interesting, this is now getting more scrutiny in more recent months. It was not necessarily being talked about hugely when we did it in Florida, but we knew it was important, so we got ahead of it. Now people are talking a little bit more about it, and so Zuckerberg himself has actually come up and said, in 2022, I'm not doing Zuckerbucks this year. But here's the thing. The fact that we banned Zuckerbucks, we don't have to worry about what he wants to do. He can't do it in Florida no matter what. So we look to see, okay, where are we falling short in this year? What more can we do to increase election security and make sure we have a transparent, accessible process that people have confidence in? And so the bill I'm going to sign today really builds off the success that we had last year. And I think some of these things are going to be really, really significant. And so yes, last year we did ban ballot harvesting, but I think the concern was that would the penalties be severe enough if somebody's going around collecting and trafficking these ballots to get like a misdemeanor, that may be something that wouldn't be sufficient deterrence. And so in this bill, we actually increase penalties for ballot harvesting. Yeah. We make it. If you ballot harvest in the state of Florida, this is now a third-degree felony that you can be I just think it's important. The secret ballot, you go into the polling place, you have a curtain or you have dividers, and you go and you make that choice yourself. You put it in the counter, and that's kind of how they do it. Well, when you do the absentee ballots, it sends to your house. We need to do our best to make sure that that is a secret, private process. And if you have someone that can go collect dozens of ballots across an area, you wonder how did those ballots get into that individual's hands, and it creates a lot of problems. So I think we're taking a very strong stand against ballot harvesting. I think it's justified, and I think that people can have confidence that if someone's voting absentee, they actually got the ballot, they actually sent it in. So we're very happy about that. And oh, by the way, last year's bill, which we got dinged on this one provision, we're going to win on appeal, but we got rid of these drop boxes in Florida where you just have drop boxes sitting around. Nobody knows what's going on. So you actually, you can just have like a box somewhere in the middle of town. And so in Florida, you can request absentee, you can send it in the mail, or you can bring it to an actual election site during the hours of operation. To just have these things sitting around, I think, was not good. And so they're trying to mess with us in court. But I can tell you, even people that are on the opposite side of this look at that judge's ruling and they say that thing's going to get it reversed. And so I feel very confident that we'll be able to do that well. We also strengthened voter ID for the mail-in ballots. The Department of State is actually going to study ways to do more in terms of some of the envelopes that are going to be done. And I think that that's something that we need to do. I mean, if you're getting an absentee ballot, you need to make sure that's your ballot. And you go in to vote, and in the process, you show your ID to be able to get into the polling place. We want to make sure the same for the mail. We also, in this bill, even though they're supposed to, and look, some supervisors have done a really good job at cleaning the voting rolls, but not all of them have done it. This bill now requires them to clean their voting rolls every year. We're also, in this bill, broadening our prohibition against sucker bucks. And so what we did last year was say, okay, you cannot have private money going to the administration of the elections. But then what some of these elections officers were doing around the country is saying, okay, you can't do that, but we're going to take Zucker bucks for legal expenses or all these other things. So we've expanded it like, no way. There's not going to be any nook and cranny. You are not getting Zucker bucks in any of this stuff. And then probably the most significant part of this bill is you can sit there and say, no ballot harvesting, voter ID, all these things, clean the voter rolls. But how do you know that that's going to be enforceable? And the fact of the matter is, when people see something that they think may violate the law, if you call the supervisor of elections, well, they're not investigators. They're not law enforcement. But what are you going to do? You call like a state attorney's office? They're just not. They do other crimes. They happen to face someone robs a bank, all that other stuff. Some of them may not care as much about the election stuff. I think it's been mixed to how those reactions going to be. So we just want to make sure whatever laws are on the books, that those laws are enforced, and that if people know that we're going to enforce the law, I think everyone will be very happy. So we are creating, for the first time ever, in state government and Office of Election Crimes and Security to be able to prosecute voter fraud. And at the end of the day, we want to be in a situation where everyone knows the rules. In Florida, this is very accessible to be able to do, and know the rules, know that you can go, vote in person, you can do absentee. What you can't do, collect a bunch of ballots and dump them somewhere. So I think it's good, and I think that this office will be very, very much appreciated, and it will allow us to have people who really specialize in election security and in election integrity. And so that's going to be getting off the ground very soon, and I think you're going to see people are really going to be excited. And so my message is just, I don't think there's any other place in the country where you should have more confidence that your vote counts than in the state of Florida. Well, we're happy to be joined. We've got a number of folks here that are going to be offering some thoughts on what they've been able to do. So we're going to bring up two of the key legislative leaders in this. The first, Senator Simpson, and Danny Perez. This is not necessarily easy stuff to do. There's a lot of stuff that gets thrown around on these debates, and for 2 years in a row, Senator Simpson's been able to get across the finish line in the Senate in Florida two major pieces of election integrity legislation. So, Wilton?
Thank you, and how America's governor here with us today, Governor. The foundation of a free state and a free country are fair and secure elections. It's why Governor DeSantis and this legislature have worked so hard passing not one but two of the strongest elections bills in the nation. Voters expect the rolls to be accurate and their personal information to be protected. They want a clear process in place for investigating fraud and other irregularities so that every legal vote is counted. We have more and more people moving in and around the state every day, as well as more out-of-state groups attempting to influence the outcome of our elections. Our laws have to keep up with these changes. This bill sends a very strong message to those who want to stuff ballot boxes or manufacture votes. Stay out of Florida. Florida is free economically, Florida is free from indoctrination, and Florida will stay free because of fair, transparent, and secure elections. And I just want to reiterate, Governor Sanders did a great job talking about this bill, and I want to thank him for his steadfast leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, joining us from down in Miami-Dade County is Danny Perez from the State House.
Thank you, Governor. And what I wanted to relay to you all is pretty simple. An issue like elections, the phone calls are astronomical, the emails are through the roof, the meeting requests are insane. And when you notice the kickback that you're getting, it means you're doing the right thing. And on this issue, the governor, the Senate, and the House, under their leadership, accomplished a huge goal across Florida. People said, do you really need to touch elections law? Yes, we do. Yes. Well, what are you going to do? I said, well, we're going to make sure that this has the safest and most secure election laws in the entire country. Yes. And we are one step closer, and it is a step in the right direction under the leadership of these gentlemen behind me. So thank them. Give them a round of applause. You know, Speaker Sprouse, when he started this year, spoke about elections as well. And he made sure that ballot harvesting was never going to happen again, increasing this to a third-degree felony. I continue to get asked, is it necessary? And that has to be the common question that I've been asked the most. Is it necessary, a third-degree felony?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Hell yes. It is necessary. So thank you guys all for coming out here, and thank you for supporting the House, the Senate, and the Governor. Thank you very much.
Okay, Secretary of State of the State of Florida, Laurel Lee.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for your support, for your leadership, and it is such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. Particularly because I look out here and I see so many faces of Floridians who have come to Tallahassee to meet with me to talk about elections because they are so passionate about ensuring that our state has the right laws, the right policies, and the right leaders to ensure our elections are done right. It is a credit to all of you that you're so committed to our process. Governor DeSantis made elections integrity a top priority from the beginning of his administration, taking steps to ensure that we invested in modernizing our voting equipment, that we have the strongest cybersecurity defenses, that we updated our voter rolls, and that we were providing transparency to Florida's voters. As Florida's chief elections official, I share the governor's strong commitment to elections integrity. It is the heart of what we do at the Florida Department of State. Together with our 67 supervisors of elections, we work every day to ensure that our elections are secure, that they are accurate, and that they are timely. I am most excited about the establishment of the Office of Election Crimes and Security at the Department of State. This is a testament to the commitment of our governor and our legislature to ensuring that our elections continue to stay secure and continue to meet the highest standards of integrity. This office will allow us to do even more to work with our partners in law enforcement and ensure that we are able to investigate any allegations of fraud or impropriety, that we're able to investigate any physical threats to voters or election officials, and that we're able to keep our cybersecurity defenses strong. We want to ensure that anyone who comes to Florida to engage in elections-related activities is following our law. And we want every Floridian to know that elections integrity will remain a cornerstone of this administration. The Florida Department of State and our 67 supervisors of election stand ready to defend Florida's voting systems, our elections officials, and our voters. In Florida, we make it easy to vote, but hard to cheat. And we want to ensure that every Floridian can have confidence that in Florida, we do elections right. Thank you to Governor DeSantis and to our legislative leaders for ensuring that we have the support and the resources to continue to lead the nation in elections integrity.
Now, this doesn't deal with voter registration, but I will tell you, people always ask how, we've led the country in net in-migration since COVID. And some people are like, well, who's coming? What's the issue? I mean, are they gonna, you have some people that will leave some of these really bad states and then they'll vote the same way that they came from the state. And then, so that's what you don't want. Well, when I got elected governor, there were almost 300,000 more registered Democrats in the state of Florida than Republicans. Today, there are over 120,000 more registered Republicans. We never had more Republicans in the history of the state until I became governor. So I just think that that's interesting. I think people do appreciate a free state, and I think they appreciate a lot of what we've been able to do. I also just would like to point out, we had a special session of the legislature last week, and we did the legislature passed a couple bills that I signed, a few bills. One was on the congressional districts. One was on some of these special districts, like you saw with Reedy Creek, that was basically run by Walt Disney Company. And that was really the first step in what's going to be a process to make sure that Disney should not run its own government. Disney should not be exempt from the laws that every single person in Florida. And some people are trying to say somehow that they would get a tax break out of not having their special treatment. Trust me, under no circumstances will Disney not pay its fair share of taxes. People have also said that somehow, because they've been able to run up tax-free debt with these bonds, that somehow the bonds are going to get dumped on a truck. No. Under no circumstances will Disney be able to not pay its debts. We will make sure of that. Do not worry about it. I'd also just like to say that the Florida, we have almost a $200 billion pension system for our state employees, and I don't make investment decisions on it, but I'm part of a board of administration that oversees it. Our board of administration has invested in Twitter stock, and so last week they sent a letter to the board of directors just saying, look, Elon Musk is putting a very good offer on the table, and you better have a good business reason why you're not doing it, because if it's for politics, we're going to hold you accountable. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to say that it appears that the Twitter board of directors has accepted Elon Musk. I just think it's very telling that you have some of these legacy media outlets in D.C. and New York saying that this is such a bad thing because Musk believes in free speech. But it shows you what they've used these tech platforms to do. When these platforms first came on the scene, they billed themselves as being open platforms, as letting people share ideas. Indeed, they were used to go around a lot of those failed legacy media outlets like NBC and CNN that nobody trusts anymore. And yet it seems like over the last 5 or 6 years, these big tech companies, including Twitter, have gone from being open platforms to being enforcers of the narrative. If you dissent from that narrative, you can be silenced. You can be deplatformed. If you report things that are inconvenient to the narrative, like the New York Post did with Hunter Biden, they will take it down or freeze your account. If you do satire that bites too hard, like the Babylon Bee did, they will freeze your account. And so that is not healthy for a free society. And so my hope is that with Elon Musk taking this private, he's going to open it up and let people be able to speak. And here's all I know. The people that want to enforce orthodoxy and want to stifle dissent, they only do that because they know their ideas cannot stand scrutiny. They know that if people are able to speak their mind, that people will reject these phony narratives that they're always trying to shove down our throats. And so I think it's an important step. I look forward to seeing what ends up going. I mean, not that it's the most important platform. There's a bunch of other platforms. But I think this is a blow for free speech. And I can tell you just from the shareholders' perspective in our state board of administration, we are 100% supportive of what the Twitter board of directors did to accept Elon Musk's offer. All right, well, it's time to make it official, so we're going to go ahead and put the John Hancock on this. And put the DeSantis on. All right, so Perez, you want a pen? Who else wants one? Laurel? What is today's date? Okay.
Phones down, please.
Yeah. The 26th. April 25. You all appreciate you.
Most don't realize it, but you are witnessing history. The future will record this is the moment that things changed. The pendulum began to swing. And it all started in Florida. For the first time since 1860, the states are beginning to stand up, specifically one, and govern themselves in a sovereign, constitutional manner, completely absent of the fear of Washington, D.C. or its petulant complaint, realizing and stating forthrightly that Washington, D.C. works for us, not the other way around. It's the reason we have governors of states and only administrators in Washington, D.C. That's why they call it a president. What is the president doing? Well, he's presiding. He's presiding over an administrative district. Governor DeSantis and the team behind him have just illuminated this and showed in reality what you can do. Now, I'm probably going to say something here that's going to make some people mad. And that's fine. Sorry about that. What didn't you hear? And what haven't you heard from Governor DeSantis? You know what you haven't heard? Oh, poor me. Oh, it's just so unfair. Oh, the machinery at the highest levels is going to attempt to take away, and I'm going to be the victim. Feel bad for me. Feel bad. There's nothing you can do. It's all magically controlled by machines. And, oh no, time to go build a bunker in the backyard and go climb down into it. It's just not fair. It's just not fair. Poor me. Poor me. Have you ever heard Governor DeSantis say mean things on Twitter about people? No. You just fix the problem. You just fix the problem. You improvise. You adapt. You overcome. Now, there is somebody out there that does whine quite a bit about how unfairly he was treated. How it just wasn't right. And people should stamp their feet and hold their breath and throw on the ground and demand everything be made right. Is that how you get things done? Is that how you teach your kids to get things done? Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And I'm going to share this again because this is a bigger deal than a lot of people make of it. On 26 June 2020, HB 7049 designated a state protocol officer, Laurel M. Lee, you just heard her speak, with the authority to develop cultural and strategic partnerships with international governments doing business in the free and sovereign Republic of Florida. See, we no longer need DC. See if I can find the picture. We just don't need them. I'll find it here. Hold on. There we go. Elon Musk now owns Twitter. Florida owns stock. Florida owns stock in Twitter. Huge $200 billion retirement fund. So now with Musk in charge, what do you think the next thing is going to happen now that he owns it completely? See, some have asked about my existence here on YouTube. Some have said, Florida Maquis. Florida Maquis, hold on. All the truth tellers, real truth tellers, they got kicked off YouTube. They've gone to BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey, and that's where all the real truth is. How are you still there? Clearly, you're part of the cabal. No. Some of us have just known how to survive, how to keep your head down, and how to pick your battles. When to fight, when to run. Jennifer Veterans for Truth is still here. BP Earthwatch is still here. The Patriot Nurse is still here. And believe me, we've been shadow banned, and we've had all sorts of things that we have had to overcome, improvise, adapt, and overcome. But now that the pendulum is swinging back the other way, and we've survived, things are going to change dramatically. Thank you, True Believer, by the way, for the financial support. And I'm a big supporter of those who put their money where their mouth is. That's why over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, it's only $1. It's symbolic. $1. I know people that spend twice that on a cup of coffee. Not even good coffee. You don't see the Florida Maquis much on Twitter. It's never really been my platform. Why? Well, the issue with Twitter is this. Twitter is a platform dedicated to emotions. Let me say it again. Twitter is a platform dedicated to emotions. 150 characters vomited up of what you're feeling at the moment. That's all Twitter is. 150 characters of you vomiting up your emotions. And people just doing this back and forth. It is. It's just you feeling like you need to express something, and everybody needs to know how you're feeling at the moment. Twitter was the original platform, by the way, where people would take pictures of their food. That and Instagram. Think about that for a minute. You go to a restaurant and you have nothing better to do than to take pictures of what you ordered and put it online. I'm sorry, that's just not, to me, worth a dime. I've heard the name Lynn Wood. I don't know much about Lynn Wood, couldn't care anything about. If Lynn Wood doesn't have anything to do with Florida, I don't really care. Unless it has something directly to do with Florida, which I don't think it does, I don't care. And I know that sounds like something people don't want to hear, but it's the reality. For all I care, Atlanta can burn again. If it were up to me, that would be a great way to start. Burn it to the ground. Start over. So, and I don't care about, you see, I have a real unpopular opinion about Rittenhouse too. I have a super unpopular opinion about that. I'm sorry, but the Black Rifle Coffee guys were right. Kid went looking for trouble. He found trouble, and you know what happened to me was just total bullshit, emotionalistic, childish nonsense. So, you would have to be an adult to understand it, though. You would have to be somebody that doesn't just stamp their feet and say, I have a right to this, I have a right to that, I have that. You learn as you get older. Anyone who sits and demands and whines and pisses and moans about their rights, usually there's a good reason why they're having a problem with it. See, when have you ever heard Governor DeSantis demand his right to be treated fairly by CNN? Every single time a reporter has come after Governor DeSantis, have you ever heard him say, you're fake news, you're just fake news, and you're lying, and you're just trying to make things unfair? Have you ever heard him do that? And that's all Trump ever did. What has DeSantis done? Calmly, collected, focused, and disciplined, with a grasp of the facts, defeating the narrative of the left. Never gotten upset, never gotten animated. He just defeats them because he knows more about what's being spoken of than they do, and he makes sure that he knows going in. He makes sure that he knows going in that he knows more than the reporters do. just like everybody else around the governor. This is the key. When you hear that the press is just absolutely mortified of asking questions of Florida officials because they know they're going to get trashed and they're going to get trounced. Whether it's the Secretary of State, Laurel M. Lee, like you just heard, whether it's our Attorney General, the First Lady, the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor, and believe me, we got a whole lot more in the bullpen, waiting for their chance. Educated and ready to go. I've talked about these folks being untouchable. And this is how you do it. You don't do it by bluster. You don't do it by arrogance. You don't do it by demanding respect and fairness. You do it by defeating them in the arena of ideas and on the battlefield of the mind. This is why everybody opposing DeSantis, they can't fill a phone booth of people to hear them, the Democrats, the left, to listen to them. Everywhere DeSantis goes, he's got to have a huge tranche of security to go in there first, secure everything. There's people standing outside. There's people inside. It's standing ovations everywhere he goes because he's real. And he says the things we want to say and that we would say, defeating this idea that the right is not educated, that they don't have a command of civility or governance or civics. And this, believe me, and Chef Jeff said it, this is historic. This is an historic change. And it's going to start to have a ripple effect. I can't mention the name of what the law was about. It's a certain treatment. Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, just stood up and passed a law. I wish they would have done a press conference for it. I don't know why the governor of Tennessee didn't do it. It was huge. It's a certain treatment for a certain thing that is now available to anyone just for asking for it in Tennessee. And believe me, everything he talked about today with elections, it has meaning. It has meaning. Yes, the last election with the governor and the person opposing him, Gillum or whatever his name was close. But right after the governor took office, he got rid of two people, Brenda Snipes and another election supervisor down there that were the vast majority, the architects of the vast majority of the creative way that Democrats got votes. And let's just leave it there. It was a creative system they had of garnering votes. Those people are gone. And the ramifications of that haven't been seen. But even then, back in November of 2020, we had our elections done right down here. Nobody has forgotten. I know we don't do videos with that in the title about the events of November 2020, but that's how you survive on YouTube. That's how you survive on Google. People know what we're talking about. People know what we're talking about. We don't have to be explicit about it. Nobody has forgotten, and the time for payback is coming. And believe me, payback is going to start right here in the state of Florida. It's the end of April. May, June, July, August, September, and October. 6 more months. 6 more months, and payback's a-coming. Payback is coming. There's going to be the representation of Florida in D.C. is going to have conservative Florida is going to have a massive swing because of the redistricting. They're not going to be able to do anything about it before November. And after that, it'll be a lost cause. So the last thing I'll say is this: whenever I create videos here and I talk about different topics on this platform, I have two audiences. Three, technically. I have my audience that supports me. I have an audience of people listening, waiting for me to screw up so they can report me to YouTube if I use the wrong language. And then I have the censors at YouTube themselves that are listening, that are waiting for me to screw up, say the wrong word, say the wrong thing, say the wrong phrase, so that they can take away my privileges of posting or my monetization privileges. See, YouTube is one thing, and Google is another. I know people think they're the same. They're really not. YouTube is far more restrictive and far more tyrannical than Google is. But YouTube is under Google. So if YouTube gets rid of somebody, especially a monetized channel, a large monetized channel, they have to be able to justify it to Google. And if they can't justify it to Google, Google won't allow it. Now, Google is not exactly some bastion of conservative thought, but they are all about the Benjamins. So you guys showing up here and sharing videos and liking the videos and watching them and playing the playlists, all that makes a difference to Google. It makes a huge difference to Google. YouTube, if they had their way, would have me gone. That's why they redact and shadow ban and keep people from watching my stuff. That's where you come in. That's where you come in and you can make the change. Because Google just looked at the analytics. They just look at the numbers. Is he making us money? Yes or no? If you can give us a real good, solid reason, they would allow it. But my job, the Patriot Nurse's job, Jennifer Veterans for Truth's job, BP Earthwatch's job, Monkey Works, all these other places, the job is, what's the job? Dutch Hens, he's still here. What's the job? The job is survive to the next day. Survive to fight another day. The pendulum will swing. That old wheel is going to roll around. And now the wheel is rolling back. And rolling back in a hard way. Those who decided to hop up out of their trench and go walk into the devil's paintbrush of Google and YouTube and get themselves tossed off, not a great strategy. Not a great strategy. So anyway, Adam, Shelley, T. Luke, Traditional Girl, all you guys, Marty, Chef Jeff, Paul Revere, thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. It's just it's a survival mode kind of thing. But it's going to change, and it's going to change soon. And thank the leadership in Florida for it. So I'll leave it there. God bless. Everyone have a great afternoon. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, join us. Join us at Patreon. That one symbolic dollar will do a lot more than you know. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.